Hare Krishna. So what did we discuss in our previous class?
Arjuna surrendered to Krishna.
Discussed about Palestine.
Okay, Falashruti of? So what is the Falashruti?
Free from anxiety and grief.
What else?
Devasya must pass.
What else did we discuss?
Compassion, false compassion and true compassion. How the compassion is evolved.
Sankhya Yoga.
Body and
matter of spirit.
Actually, giving all the Vedic reasons as to why we should not be fighting. And this is basically coming out, even though he's correct in what he's saying, he's sort of using his intelligence to actually counteract why he should not be doing that.
Correct. Good.
We also talked about Guru. Guru should be a bona fide succession.
Very nice, very nice. So yeah, that's a very, very important point. But in which context did it come?
You just mentioned about Arjuna did not have a guru to reach Krishna. He was directly surrendering to Krishna, whereas we have to actually go through a bona fide.
Correct. But what was Arjuna's mood towards Krishna?
When he was
before
so
the Bhagavad
confused.
Gita started, before Krishna started speaking Bhagavad Gita.
When he was completely confused.
He was a friend.
He was a friend, yes, correct. His mood was Sakhyaras. And then
And then he accepted him as a guru.
he became a servant of Krishna. So that is the mood. That is the most important point that has come across in the previous section. That as long as Arjuna was dealing with Lord Krishna as a friend, right? The Bhagavad Gita was not spoken. But then Arjuna said, now I am accepting you as my spiritual master. Please instruct me. So, spiritual topics come to us through instruction. In our Mill Park Bhakti Vriksha program today, we had a special program because it was the first anniversary, 1 year of Mill Park program. So we had a special program there. So we had given them a quiz today. One of the questions in the quiz was, how does Vedic knowledge come down? How does Vedic knowledge come down? What is the correct way of, what are the different ways in which a subject matter can be understood? We can understand by Pratyaksha Praman, Anuman Praman or Shabda Praman. But what's the right way of understanding Vedic knowledge? Shabda Praman. Or it is also called as Shruti. Or the third word is Avaroha Pantha. Yes. So there are three things. Avaroha Pantha. Avaroha Pantha means something which is descending, coming down in disciplic section. So that's the way of understanding. So Arjuna is now telling, because there can be only dissension when there is a hierarchy. At the same level, there cannot be any dissension or descending knowledge. So somebody has to be the higher spiritual authority, and then knowledge will flow. So this is a very important point. So unless there is a difference, unless we accept some devotee, okay, as senior, truly, that devotee will not be able to instruct us. It is up to us to make ourselves subordinate to other devotees. Other devotees will not come and say that now you are my junior. Nobody will say like that. And if some devotee says like that, then that devotee is a junior most. Right? Okay. So a Madhyama Adhikari will not speak like that. But a Kanishta mentality can be like that I am superior to others. So usually when a devotee goes to Madhyama Adhikari position, he does not say that I am superior or I am a senior devotee. But a Kanishta will very soon go to the Madhyama Adhikari if the Kanishta always thinks that he is Kanishta Adhikari. A bit tricky, right, to understand, but that is a fact. So a Madhyama Adhikari and a Uttama Adhikari always think that he is Kanishta Adhikari, like that. But that is the way in which, and then obviously it's not that we say that I am Kanishta Adhikari, therefore I am not qualified to read Bhagavad Gita, I am not qualified to read Srimad Bhagavatam, I am not qualified to give class, I am not qualified to cook in the kitchen, I am not qualified, then no. So we go to office to make money without qualifications, correct? We accept a salary of 1,50,000 without qualifications. So why not then we accept this also? This service also without qualification, isn't it? After all, we go there in office, and even when we don't know anything, we act as if we are very knowledgeable in work. So why not show the same confidence when it comes to spiritual life, to execute the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? So humility is not in saying that I am not confident, I am not qualified. Humility is actually understanding that inside the heart, but doing something about it to become qualified. Like that. Okay. So Arjuna here, so a Kanishta Adhikari, by making endeavor in devotional life, becomes a Madhyama Adhikari. But the Kanishta Adhikari doesn't tell that I have become a Madhyama Adhikari now. Nobody talks like that, right? But because of that maturity of a Madhyama Adhikari, then he is able to, then the Kanishta Adhikari is able to recognize that difference. A Kanishta Adhikari who is serious is able to recognize this difference. Right? A Kanishta Adhikari who is really Kanishta Adhikari may not even see a difference between him and the Uttama Adhikari. Right? For example, with Maharaj also somebody may joke and talk. So they won't understand who is the personality I am dealing with right now. So unless there is that difference which is perceived, Siksha will not flow. Just like current does not flow without a potential difference, just like water does not flow unless there is potential energy. So there has to be a difference in height for water to flow. So similarly, knowledge will also flow if we make ourselves subordinate to other devotees who can give us that knowledge. So Arjuna in the battlefield of Kurukshetra is trying to do that. He is trying to create that potential difference, if you like, between him and Krishna, which was always there. Right? But the Sakhya Ras of Arjuna had covered him thus far. So instructions were difficult to flow. But now he is creating the difference. It does not mean that Arjuna is no longer in Sakhya Ras. All the rasas, one thing is common in all the rasas, that is Dasya Ras. Dasya Ras is common across everything. Dasya Ras is also there in Madhurya Ras. Why? Because Jivera Swarupe Hoy, Krishnera Nitya Das, our constitutional position anyway is servant of Krishna. So even if we are wrestling with Krishna, and even if Krishna is subordinating to us and losing that battle, still Jivera Swarupe Hoy, Krishnera Nitya Das. That whole defeat of Krishna is also for Krishna's pleasure only. Doesn't mean that now I have become master, I have defeated Krishna. It's not like that. So we have to really understand it. So Arjuna is there in Sakhya Ras, but he is taking this position so that Bhagavad Gita can be spoken like that. Okay. So today we will move to section 2.11 to 2.30. So there's quite a bit of verses to cover. So I may not take too many questions unless they are really pertaining to something which we are discussing and that's not clear. Okay, because otherwise we won't be able to cover so many things, and it's pretty philosophical. Today's section is all about jnana. Have you noted down the boxes which we had drawn on the board? So what is the section for today called as jnana fight, right? So today Lord Krishna is going to be instructing Arjuna completely from the jnana platform, and in the next session he will be instructing Arjuna from the karma platform. So first we will understand jnana, then we will understand karma, and then after that slowly we will move into yoga, jnana yoga and karma yoga. Okay, right. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor the dead. Dina Vatsala Prabhu.
The Lord at once took the position of the teacher and chastised the student, calling him indirectly a fool. The Lord said, you are talking like a learned man, but you do not know that one who is learned. One who knows what is body and what is soul does not lament for any stage of the body, neither in the living nor in the dead condition. As explained in later chapters, it will be clear that knowledge means to know matter and spirit and the controller of both. Arjuna argued that religious principles should be given more importance than politics or sociology. But he did not know that knowledge of matter, soul and the Supreme is even more important than religious formularies. And because he was lacking in that knowledge, he should not have posed himself as a very learned man. As he did not happen to be a very learned man, he was consequently lamenting for something which was unworthy of lamentation. The body is born and is destined to be vanquished today or tomorrow. Therefore, the body is not as important as the soul. One who knows this is actually learned, and for him there is no cause for lamentation, regardless of the condition of the material body.
Okay, so what are the points here?
It's trying to say that just by knowing the spiritual text, formalities or rituals of the whole thing, that person cannot be called really a learned person. If he fails to understand that the subject, if he fails to understand the subject matter of the higher soul and supreme personality. So just by following the rituals, learning of the text and everything, it's not good enough.
Sachi Prabhu?
What I feel from this verse is saying as if Arjuna was saying so many big things, and all of a sudden Krishna is saying whatever you are saying is sort of useless in one way. And then where it's saying those who are wise learned neither for the living nor for the dead, that means something big is coming right after this verse.
Yeah, basically the difference between the body and soul is started to be mentioned here. Saying that you don't have to worry for the body, you have to think about the good of the soul.
The best principle to learn in Krishna consciousness on the path of spirituality is to know that we are not this body, and that is coming across here.
Very good. I think there's a general principle which is what's coming up here. What Krishna is trying to say, when people, when we look in today's context, today's world, people tend to sort of pose themselves as if they are knowing everything, and which is why they basically do not absorb what is being given to them. So Krishna is chastising him right from the beginning that you are a fool, and that's basically what's coming out, just to sort of put him into perspective and then taking it forward.
Very good point. Yeah.
Recently I heard Maharaj lecture. Maharaj was telling.
Which Maharaj are you talking about?
Radhanath Swami.
Okay, you heard Radhanath Swami's lecture.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Maharaj was telling, in the first chapter Arjuna posed so many ways. All the problems he has mentioned, and he quoted from Dharma Shastra, Artha Shastra in many ways. And he is trying to present whatever knowledge, which he learned in his life, he is presenting it to Krishna. And Krishna, see, so patiently is listening. But even though he is quoting whatever he is quoting is perfect. But ultimately it did not, make him to come out of that lamentation which he is going through. Even then he did not stop speaking, he went on speaking. And finally he accepted Krishna's supremacy and he said, no, whatever knowledge I have is nothing. My Lord, I am confused about my duty, please help me. And once he accepted that position, Krishna started, revealing the knowledge. Indirectly telling him, till now you spoke so many things, and now Krishna is revealing, what kind of a fool are you? You are speaking so many things, but you cannot even drive away your lamentation. Indirectly pointing that. And also Maharaj said that similarly, when Arjuna gave up all the hope, whatever knowledge he has, then only he was able to surrender to Krishna. Means he lost his faith in his own knowledge. My knowledge is useless. Then he accepted Krishna. Similarly, when you were telling at the beginning of the class, you were telling, unless one accepts a superior, unless we think we are inferior, it's not possible to accept someone as superior.
Okay. So, in text 11, there is a distinct shift that is happening from the earlier theme, what has happened thus far. In the previous section, if you see, Arjuna was talking about Artha Shastra, sociology, politics, etc., etc. And he was also quoting from Dharma Shastra. So we saw in the earlier sections, especially around the first chapter, 36th verse, we saw that a lot of arguments were being put forth from these Shastras. Whereas this entire section which you are going to study today is completely the Jnana Shastra. So there is a shift here. And it is mentioned, it's coming out from this verse, Lord Krishna is saying that this Jnana Shastra is higher than Artha Shastra or Dharma Shastra. So in the ladder, Artha Shastra, Dharma Shastra, and then Jnana Shastra. And Lord says, he is referring to Arjuna here, he is saying, Asocyan Anvasochastvam Prajnavadamscha Bhashase Gatasun Agatasumscha Nanu Sochanti Panditaha. Panditaha means learned man. So who is this learned man or Pandita? So Lord is saying, a Pandit is one who knows the difference between the body and the soul. And a Pandit is one who, knowing that he is not this body, laments neither for the living nor for the dead. Such a person is called as a Pandita, or a person who has got Jnana. And Arjuna is being chastised here by the Lord as foolish, because he is not speaking like a Pandita. He is not talking on the platform of Jnana. He is still talking on the platform of inferior Shastras. Like that. So, the difference between the other Shastras and the Jnana Shastra is that the Jnana Shastra brings in the intelligence that comes from the knowledge of the soul. So that is why Jnanis are supposedly more intelligent than the normal folks. Like that. So these are some of the points that are coming in text 11. Let's go further. A lot of interesting points are going to come up. Now this verse 12 is a very, very important verse. So we are going to spend some time, at least maybe the next 20-25 minutes on this verse 12. It's a huge verse. So let's read it very carefully. But I need someone who can read very fast. Who can read fast as well as concentrate? Who is a fast reader? Okay, Kiran Prabhu, you want to read? Okay, first let me read the translation and then you read the purport. Please listen to this purport very attentively. It's a very, very important purport. Never was a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. Okay.
In the Vedas, in the Katha Upanishad as well as in the Shvetashanavara Upanishad, it is said that Supreme Personality of Godhead is the maintainer of innumerable living entities in terms of their different situations according to individual world and reaction of world. That Supreme Personality of Godhead is also by his plenary portions alive in the hearts of every living entity. Only saintly persons who can see within and without the same Supreme Lord can actually attain to perfect and eternal peace. Nityo nityanam chetananam eko bahunam yo vidadhati kaman tam atmastham ye anupashyanti dhiras tesham shanti shashvati netaresham. The same Vedic truth given to Arjuna is given to all persons in the world who pose themselves as very learned but factually have but a poor fund of knowledge. The Lord says clearly that He Himself, Arjuna and all the kings who are assembled on the battlefield are eternally individual beings, and that the Lord is eternally the maintainer of the individual living entities, both in their condition and in their liberated situations. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is Supreme Individual Person, and Arjuna, the Lord's eternal associate, and all the kings assembled there are individual eternal persons. It is not that they did not exist as individuals in the past, and it is not that they will not remain eternal persons. Their individuality existed in the past, and their individuality will continue in the future without interruption. Therefore, there is no cause for lamentation for anyone. The Mayavadi theory that after liberation the individual soul, separated by the covering of Maya or illusion, will merge into the impersonal Brahman
and lose its individual existence is not supported herein by Lord Krishna, the Supreme Authority. Nor is the theory that we only think of individuality in the conditioned state supported herein. Krishna clearly says herein that in the future also the individuality of the Lord and others, as it is confirmed in Upanishads, will continue eternally. This statement of Krishna's is authoritative because Krishna cannot be subject to illusion. If individuality were not a fact, then Krishna would not have stressed it so much, even for the future. The Mayavadi may argue that the individuality spoken of by Krishna is not spiritual, but material. Even accepting the argument that the individuality is material, then how can one distinguish Krishna's individuality? Krishna affirms his individuality in the past and confirms his individuality in the future also. He has confirmed his individuality in many ways, and impersonal Brahman has been declared to be subordinate to him. Krishna has maintained spiritual individuality all along. If he is accepted as an ordinary conditioned soul in individual consciousness, then his Bhagavad Gita has no value as authoritative scripture. A common man with all the 4 defects of human frailty is unable to teach that which is worth hearing. The Gita is above such literature. No mundane book compares with the Bhagavad Gita. When one accepts Krishna as an ordinary man, the Gita loses all importance. The Mayavadi argues that the plurality mentioned in this verse is conventional and that it refers to the body. But previous to this verse, such a bodily conception is already condemned. After condemning the bodily conception of the living entities, how was it possible for Krishna to place a conventional proposition on the body again? Therefore, individuality is maintained on spiritual grounds and is thus confirmed by great acharyas like Sri Ramanuja and others. It is clearly mentioned in many places in the Gita that this spiritual individuality is understood by those who are devotees of the Lord. Those who are envious of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead have no bona fide access to the great literature. The non-devotee's approach to the teachings of Gita is something like that of a bee taken on a bottle of honey. One cannot have a taste of honey unless one opens the bottle. Similarly, the mysticism of Bhagavad Gita can be understood only by devotees and no one else can taste it, as it is stated in 4th chapter of the book. Nor can the Gita be touched by persons who envy the very existence of the Lord. Therefore, the Mayavadi explanation of Gita is a most misleading presentation of the whole truth. Lord Chaitanya has forbidden us to read commentations made by the Mayavadis and warns that one who takes to such an understanding of the Mayavadi philosophy loses all power to understand the real mystery of the Gita. If individuality refers to the empirical universe, then there is no need of teaching by the Lord. The plurality of the individual soul and the Lord is an eternal fact, and it is confirmed by the Vedas as above mentioned.
Let me read 30. We'll discuss both the verses together. This is a very famous verse again, it's a key memory verse. Dehinosmin yatha dehiva. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. Okay, we'll read the first paragraph of this. Vinendra, you want to read?
Since every living entity is an individual soul, each is changing his body every moment, manifesting sometimes as a child, sometimes as a youth, sometimes as an old man. Yet the same spirit soul is there and does not undergo any change. This individual soul finally changes the body at death and transforms into another body. And since it is sure to have another body in the next birth, either material or spiritual, there was no cause for lamentation by Arjuna on account of death. Neither for Bhishma nor for Drona, for whom he has so much concern. Rather, he should rejoice for their changing bodies from old to new ones, thereby rejuvenating their energy such changes of body account for a varieties of enjoyment or suffering according to one's work in life. So Bhishma and Drona, being noble souls, were surely going to have spiritual bodies in their next life, or at least life in heavenly bodies for superior enjoyment of material existence. So so in either case there was no cause of lamentation.
Just read the next one.
Any man who has the perfect knowledge of constitution of the individual soul, the super soul and nature, both material and spiritual, is called a dhira, or the most sober man. Such a man is never deluded by the change of bodies.
Gandhi Mataji, can you read the next one?
The Mayavadi theory of oneness of the spirit soul cannot be entertained on the ground that the spirit soul cannot be cut into pieces as a fragmental portion. Such cutting into different individual souls would make the supreme cleavable or changeable against the principle of the supreme souls being unchangeable. As confirmed in the Gita, the fragmental portions of the supreme exist eternally, sanatana, and are called kashara. That is, they have a tendency to fall down into material nature. These fragmental portions are eternally so, and even after liberation, the individual soul remains the same fragmental. But once liberated, he lives in an eternal life in bliss and knowledge with the personality of Godhead. The theory of reflection can be applied to the super soul who is present in each and every individual body and is known as the Paramatma. He is different from the individual living entity. When the sky is reflected in water, the reflections represent both the sun and the moon and the stars also. The stars can be compared to the living entities, and the sun or the moon to the Supreme Lord. The individual fragmental spirit soul is represented by Arjuna, and the Supreme Soul is the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. They are not on the same level, as it will be apparent in the beginning of the 4th chapter. If Arjuna is not on the same level with Krishna and Krishna is not superior to Arjuna, then their relationship of instructor and instructed becomes meaningless. If both of them are deluded by the illusory energy Maya, then there is no need of one being the instructor and the other the instructor. Such instruction would be useless because in the clutches of Maya, no one can be an authoritative instructor. Under the circumstances, it is admitted that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord, superior in position to the living entity Arjuna, who is a forgetful soul deluded by Maya.
These are two very important verses. So much information is there in this. What are your thoughts?
In this, the Mayavadi philosophy is completely defeated. Krishna, in this part of the Gita, establishes that the soul is eternal and always individual, never merges into the Supreme. And again, it is also said that the devotees of the Lord can understand this, not everybody can.
Very good point.
Normally many Muslims take the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita very light. But here Prabhupada is making a very strong point that this is meant for the human, and then this teaching should not be compared to any other mundane teaching. Even if one takes the Bhagavad Gita and tries to interpret in a mundane way, also should be understood that it's an ordinary. So it should be understood as it is.
Lord mentions the three things like first person, second person and third person. So he includes him and Arjuna and all the kings assembled there, that never they did not exist, nor they exist to exist in the future. So that he includes everyone in the future.
Should not be lamentation for death because the soul passes from one body to another body.
Such a person is called as Dhiras Tatra na Muhyati. Alright. So, lot of important points are coming. So I would suggest that if you can, as you listen, then please jot down these points. They'll be very helpful to you in future when you for your own understanding in this room, as well as from the preaching point of view. How to counter Mayavadi philosophy systematically. That is the gist of both these verses. So they're star verses, if you like. Okay. So the theme of this verse is that we are all eternal individuals. So there are two words here. We are all eternal and we are all individuals. So what is the difference between Mayavadi philosophy and just with regard to this statement, what is the difference? Mayavadi simply say that we are eternal. They do not say that we are individuals. So this says that we are eternal individuals. Okay, that's one. Therefore, there is no cause of lamentation. So, the basic fear in death is that I will lose my individuality. Why are people afraid of losing their individuality? Because individuality and free will are very closely associated. Unless there is the concept of I, unless I can remain I in any situation, then I get bewildered as to who am I. Okay, what will, if I cease to exist, then that is what gives fear to that I. Right? So Lord Krishna is assuring that you will always remain you eternally. Don't worry. Your name may change, your body may change, your relationship may change, but you will remain you. So therefore there is no cause for lamentation. Thus, the soul has its individuality and it is eternal. Also, Prabhupada mentions the Supreme Lord is the maintainer. The Lord maintains all of us according to our karma. Now, how does the Lord know what's our karma? Because He is the Paramatma inside the heart. So there are two birds, and which will come later on also. So the Paramatma is sitting and he is performing two activities, that of Upadrushta and Anumanta. Upadrushta means witness. Anumanta is sanctioner, approval. Yeah. So it is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam that all the living entities get their bodies based on their karmas. Karmana daiva netrena jantur deha upapattaya. So everyone gets bodies based on their karma and under the supervision of material nature. Yeah. So daiva netrena, under the supervision of material nature and the demigods. Everyone gets the result of their karma. Now, the Lord says that saintly people can understand all this very easily, but Mayavadis cannot understand these concepts. So, in this whole verse, there is a Mayavadi argument and then there is a refutation. So, that is what is going on. Prabhupada himself is writing Mayavadi argument and Prabhupada himself is refuting that Mayavadi argument. So, there are lots of arguments that are coming in the 12th as well as the 13th. So, let's see that one by one. The first one, as we mentioned, is the Mayavadi argument is that of no individuality of the soul. So that's the Mayavadi argument. If you like, you can put a table in your books. On the left hand side, write the Mayavadi argument. On the right hand side, write the Vaishnava argument against that point. So that will help you then remember it in that way. So there is no individuality. So everything is Brahman. So there is only one consciousness, the universal consciousness. So there is no individual consciousness at all because there is no individuality. So Srila Prabhupada quotes therefore from the Katha Upanishad and the Svetashvatara Upanishad, where it is saying Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. What is that? Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadati Kama. So there it is clearly mentioned that the souls are eternal and they are individual. Nityo Nityanam Chetana Chetananam. There is eternality and there is individuality. So that is the evidence. Prabhupada is giving Shastric evidence of the fact that the soul is eternal. Of course, because it is given in Bhagavad Gita itself cannot be used as the evidence for that. Outside of that, we can use that as an evidence because Mayavadis directly attack the Bhagavad Gita. So within the Bhagavad Gita, we are not giving evidence. We are quoting from the Upanishads, which the Mayavadis also agree and quote from. So there is these two Upanishads. So, and it is also mentioned that the Lord maintains in terms of the individual work and reaction to work. So that is how Srila Prabhupada counters the first point of no individuality. The Mayavadi, the second argument of the Mayavadi is that the individuality, how does it come about? The Mayavadi argues. He says, yes, there is one universal soul. Mayavadi says there is one universal soul, and that soul is broken up by Maya into many souls. Because of Maya, that one, everything is one. But because of Maya, everything seems different. That's what they say. Just like the air is one, but but the air contained in different pots is different. How does that sound to you? Yeah, it sounds logical. In one sense, it sounds logical. Yeah. The air in different pots is different, but the air ultimately is one. They are all one, if you see. So that's the argument. So the refutation for that is coming in 2.13, and we will see further in 2.23. There it is mentioned that the soul is unbreakable. That is why Lord Krishna in the ensuing verses is again and again hammering that the soul is unbreakable. The soul cannot be destroyed, the soul cannot be broken, the soul cannot be made wet, the soul cannot be cut by sword. We can't divide the souls. Nobody can divide the soul into two souls like that. So the Mayavadi philosophy of one universal soul broken up by Maya into many, that is broken by this Vaishnava logic that the soul is unbreakable. That is a characteristic of the soul. The third argument that the Mayavadi poses is that after liberation, the soul merges or dissolves homogeneously into the impersonal Brahman. And thus the soul loses its individual existence. Third argument they put. So, again the same verses, 2.13 and 2.23, where it says the soul is unbreakable. But more importantly, in Bhagavad Gita 2.24, it is mentioned that the soul is insoluble and never dissolves. The soul cannot be dissolved. So it's not that there is some individual soul and it goes and merges and dissolves into some other soul and loses its identity. The soul doesn't dissolve. It still remains individual under any condition. Okay? Does it make sense so far or no? We'll go. There are a lot of points. Let's complete all these points and then we will have a discussion. The fourth point is, the Mayavadi argues that individuality exists only in the conditioned state. Otherwise, individuality doesn't exist. When that Supreme Soul comes in contact with the three modes of material nature, then individuality begins from there, in the conditioned state. That is why the Lord personally is mentioning here that the refutation by the Lord himself is, the Lord states that the individuality of the Lord himself as well as the living entities is eternal. He says, never was a time when you did not exist, I did not exist. He did not say, never was a time that, all of us did not exist as one single entity. He doesn't go in that direction. He says, never was a time when you did not exist, I did not exist. And in future also he is saying, never will there be a time when you will not exist and I will not exist. So he is using the word you, I. So Lord is stating the individuality of himself as well as the spirit soul. Now, the argument for this, which the Mayavadi says, he says that this individuality is material, not spiritual. He says, okay, fine, if there is individuality, then such individuality is material, it is not spiritual. Again, it's an extension of the same point, that the individuality is coming because the soul is coming in contact with the Mahat Tattva. Mahat Tattva is the primeval cosmic matter, if you like. So the soul is coming in contact with Mahat Tattva, and through that contact then the soul gets fragmented. So that individuality does not exist on the spiritual realm, it exists only at the material realm when the superior energy comes in contact with the inferior energy. Are you with me so far? So that is the Mayavadi argument. So Srila Prabhupada counters this, that means Krishna also has come through that. So if Krishna then becomes an ordinary conditioned soul as per the Mayavadi, right? So if Krishna becomes an ordinary conditioned soul, then obviously he is also born out of 4 defects, which is making mistakes, being in illusion, cheating propensity, and senses are imperfect, which is given in the Ishopanishad. So he says that if Krishna is also a product of the material energy, if his soul has also got fragmented by coming in contact with the material energy, then Krishna also comes under these 4 defects. Therefore, whatever he speaks is of no value. Then why do the Mayavadis also write Bhagavad Gita? Because there is nothing called as Bhagavad Gita. Forget it. There is no. It's a useless scripture. Going by the Mayavadis, who spoke the Bhagavad Gita? Krishna. Krishna spoke under the influence of the 3 modes of material nature, according to the Mayavadis. Because he says, the moment you come here into this material world, that one supreme spirit soul is now coming under the influence of matter and breaking up into many souls. So every soul is now acting under the influence of material energy. So under the influence of material energy, anything which is spoken has got these 4 defects. So therefore, the Bhagavad Gita itself loses its relevance. That's how Srila Prabhupada is countering this point. Yeah.
Of course, yeah. From what you are saying, it sounds like the material energy is more strong than Krishna.
Exactly. That is the Mayavadi philosophy is tending towards saying that material energy is more powerful than the spiritual energy, because material energy has the power to manipulate spiritual energy and fragment it.
But also you said that they also call it as illusion.
Who?
Mayavadis.
Mayavadis don't call material energy as illusion. Mayavadis call material energy as false. Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya, they say. It's false. That is their bogus interpretation. So the material world is not false. It is real, but it is illusory. For example, Crown Casino, can I say there are no car driving machines in Crown Casino? Can I say like that? Can I say like that? You will say, Prabhu, come here, I'll show you. Come to the first floor. See, Prabhu, there is here, no, you put that $1 and then you can drive that car. There are no guns in Crown Casino. Can I say like that? There are no toy guns in Crown Casino. I cannot say like that. You will say, Prabhu, there is gun here. So that is real. The fact that car or truck is real, but it is illusory. Does it make sense? It's an illusion. When I sit on that, whatever I do is actually in one sense just an imagination, that I am driving and I am colliding with various other vehicles. But that whole thing is real. Let's take another example. Anyone had a dream yesterday? Nobody had dreams? Anyone had dream yesterday? Yeah, you had dream yesterday. So the fact that you had a dream yesterday, that dream was real, but the dream is illusory. Am I making sense or not? The fact that you dreamt, that experience was, in that sense, that was real, but it was illusory. That is not reality, but it was there. Does it make sense or not?
What does mithya mean then? Whatever Mayavadis are saying?
Mayavadi says Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. They say it's false.
What does that mean?
False means it doesn't exist. There is nothing like that. Right? So somebody was mentioning to me yesterday that the Mayavadi, when the tiger came, then the Mayavadi started running. So another fellow said, why are you running? Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. There is no tiger. So the Mayavadi said, I am also not running. So this is the logic. But we all know there is a tiger and a Mayavadi is running from the tiger. Right? So what is the point in this intellectual jugglery of words? What is the point? Everyone understands that there was a tiger and then you are running. Right? But the whole thing is illusory because that tiger is not eternally a tiger. And we are not eternally that body. It becomes illusion because we are thinking that entity is going to finish this entity which is me. But I am not this body. The tiger will eat my body, but the soul cannot be eaten. So that is a point which it's, in one sense, for ordinary conditioned souls, it's very difficult to understand. If a tiger comes, all of us are going to run from here. There is no doubt about that, right? But from a jnana point of view, try to understand, this is a jnana section going on. For a jnani, it doesn't matter. For a jnani, there is no fear. That's why we read that pastime also. The tiger was coming, the goat was there, but all of them got that superior jnana. So nobody was, afraid of anyone there, like that. So material energy is real, but it is illusory. It is an actual creation of Krishna to bewilder us. There is a machine which is given to tell the child, to give the experience of a truck driving to a child. So that machine is real, but the experience of the child in that equipment is illusory. Does it make sense? Yeah. So that is the difference between Mayavadi philosophy and Vaishnava philosophy. So plurality, the next point. Mayavadi says that plurality mentioned in this verse refers to the body. Right? Plurality refers to the body. Now, what do you mean by plurality refers to the body? What is plural? Plural means many, singular and plural. So a singular entity can become plural only under the influence of matter. But that is condemned here. Why? Now, that has got no place. Krishna wouldn't have mentioned that in the Bhagavad Gita. Why? In the earlier verse itself, he has condemned the bodily concept of life. That is why he is calling Arjuna Nanu Sochiti Pandita. He is saying you are a fool. Because Arjuna is speaking on the bodily platform. So why will Krishna then, in the next verse, say that individuality comes from the body? Correct? Because in the earlier verse, Lord Krishna is himself saying, don't talk on the bodily platform. Right? And now why will he say that individuality comes from the body? So why will he say that plurality comes from the body? Are you all with me, or somebody has lost me? Completely lost. Okay. So plurality, Prabhupada is mentioning in this verse that the Mayavadi argument is plurality mentioned in this verse refers to the body. So if plurality is mentioning is actually Krishna, if Krishna were to be mentioning plurality as if it's pertaining to the body, that means Krishna is speaking on the bodily platform, which is exactly what he has condemned in the earlier verse. Does it make sense or no? He's condemned the bodily platform of verse. So why will he again speak on the bodily platform, saying that plurality comes because of the body? Hold on for a second. It will become clear when we go a few steps ahead. Let's hear the whole thing and then we will discuss. Okay? Because there are a lot of your questions are going to possibly will get cleared in the next few statements. Systematically it's happening here. The refutation. Then individuality refers to the empirical universe. That is another argument that the Mayavadi is posing. So, if individuality is referring to the empirical universe, then the Vaishnava refutation is there is no need of teaching by the Lord. If individuality refers, same point, that if individuality refers to the material universe, then there is no need of teaching by the Lord. Then Lord also becomes an individual product of the material universe. So an imperfect person preaches to another imperfect person has got no value. Right? Now the key point comes here. Now hear carefully. Maybe this will make us understand what Prabhupada is trying to say here. And this is what towards the end Prabhupada is referring in the 13th verse. The Mayavadi argues that how can the spirit soul be eternal fragments if the soul cannot be cut? The soul cannot be cut. But what is Vaishnava philosophy? That all of us are individual spirit soul and still there is a Parabrahman. All of us are Atma and still there is a Parama Atma. Right? And Lord is also saying Mama eva amsha jiva loke. All of you are part and parcels of mine. Right? So the Mayavadi will argue that means you guys are also countering your own philosophy. See, the soul is now, one big soul is being divided, but you say that the soul cannot be cut, the soul cannot be divided. So that is why Prabhupada is giving that example of the theory of reflection. So one object, reflection in many mirrors. The object does not get divided. So Srila Prabhupada is giving that. And therefore, and then Srila Prabhupada is giving the famous Shastric statement that Jiva is Shara or fallible. So the whole point is that never was a time that Lord Krishna did not exist, nor Arjuna existed, nor you and I, nor anybody in this room. Never was a time that we did not exist. Which means what? Right from that reference point 0, whatever that was, it's very difficult to understand that reference point 0, because there is no reference point 0. The moment you say reference point 0 of existence, that means what about reference point -1? Right? So there is no reference point 0. It is really, really inconceivable for us in one sense. So right from the time, whatever that time is, right from infinite years or infinite whatever, infinity raised to infinity, we have all existed. There was no time when we did not exist. But Prabhupada is clearly mentioning here that let us take hypothetically that existence started at reference point 0. What is that existence? That existence is a simultaneous existence of the Lord as well as His spirit souls. Does it make sense or no? Please understand this, and this you will understand when you read Srimad Bhagavatam 3rd canto, that originally at reference point 0 you can say that there was no material world, because the spiritual world always existed. So everything is Brahman. Brahman always existed. But still within that Brahman, right from that reference point 0, the Lord also existed and the individual souls also existed. So it is not that the Lord has become fragmented particles. It's not that the Lord first existed and then He was cut. Okay, Brihad Bhanu, no, Shivananda, Kiran, Narendra Prabhu, Radha Krishna Prabhu. No, it was not like that. It was not that something, the bread was made and then somebody sliced into pieces. Okay, one piece for you, one piece for you, one piece for you. Call this Rama, call this Radha Krishna, call this Tarun. It's not like that. The superset also existed and the fragments also existed at the same time in any reference point that you can think of. Does it make sense? So that counters the Mayavadi philosophy that the soul cannot be cut into pieces. Because there is simultaneous existence of the Paramatma as well as the Atma, which is substantiated here by the Lord, saying never was a time that you did not exist, I did not exist. But still, what is that existence that the Lord is speaking of? The Lord is speaking of the soul. The Lord is saying, never was a time that your individuality as a soul did not exist, neither my individuality as a soul did not exist. Right from reference point 0, all of us had our own souls, and in fact that is also a misnomer. We cannot say our own souls because we are the soul. But still, for understanding's sake, never was a time that you all didn't have your souls. All of us were always eternal. Like that. Does it make sense? Yeah. I'll take question, just one more point and then I'll take questions. Then, the Mayavadi argues that the soul is equal to the super soul. Now, if the soul is equal to the super soul, there is no difference between the soul and the super soul, then they are equal position. So Prabhupada says, then the position of instructor and the instructed has no value. Then there is nothing. Then nobody needs to tell anything to anyone. There is no difference. Right? So there is some difference between the super soul. So all of us existed at the same time, but still Govindam Adi Purusham. Tamaham Bhajami. It is said that even Narayana, somewhere else it is mentioned, that from Krishna comes Balram. From Balram comes Narayana. From Narayana comes first set of Chaturvyuha. From the first set of Chaturvyuha comes the second set of Chaturvyuha. From the second set of Chaturvyuha comes Mahavishnu. So this is given. But at the same time, Prabhupada also writes, it doesn't mean that at some point in time Narayana was not there, only Krishna was there. Nor at some point in time Balram was not there and Krishna was there. And said, hang on, let me create Balram. No. To us, our mind can think only in that dimension. Because of our material paradigms, we are not able to envision these things. It is not possible also. In this room, it is not possible to explain. From a material point, from a scientific, material science point of view, or an arithmetical point of view, or a logical point of view, it cannot be explained. So yes, for explanation purposes, it is said that Krishna expands as Balram, it expands again as Narayana, etc. The closest example that Prabhupada gives is there are many candles. There is one source candle and there are non-source candles, if you like. But when you take the source candle and light the other candles and you keep all the candles together, you wouldn't know which is the source and which is not the source. It's something like that. So yes, all of them are different, but yes, Balram still is an expansion of Krishna. So at any point in time, the hierarchy still existed. Am I making sense? Little bit.
One question probably. From Krishna there is an expansion. That's divided into Balaram, then from there it's going on. So that means again the soul is dividing.
That's what I'm saying. Never was a time that I did not exist, you did not exist, nor anyone. So never was a time that Balram did not exist. So there is no division. It has come it always existed at any point in time. Right? But still it is said that Balram came from Krishna. So from a material point of view, we cannot understand this. The closest we can understand is by this statement of Lord Krishna, that all of us existed as individual souls at any point in time. But the difference between Krishna and us is Krishna is the super soul in that sense. So he is aware of everything that is happening to us at all points in time. But we are not aware of whatever is happening at his end. There is that difference. That difference is still there between us and Krishna. That is why that is that achintya bheda, simultaneous oneness and difference. Qualitatively one, but quantitatively different. The water from the tube of a Pacific Ocean brought into the laboratory is qualitatively one as the Pacific Ocean. But so in one sense it is the Pacific Ocean. In another sense it is not the Pacific Ocean. Right? Because it's now in a test tube. So it still doesn't have the same potency of the Pacific Ocean. You cannot throw the test tube water into Japan and say tsunami has come now. Right? Whereas the Pacific Ocean can still come and create a tsunami. Right? But qualitatively it is the same. You measure the sulfur phosphorus content, it is the same. But quantitatively there is a difference. So that is the closest that we can understand this. So there is Mayavadi philosophy and then there is refutation of Mayavadi philosophy. If the Mayavadi is talking, if the Mayavadi is saying that the plurality is only coming because of contact with matter, then the Mayavadi is refusing the Vaishnava philosophy that plurality existed since reference point 0. Individuality existed since reference point 0. It was not that individuality did not exist, and because it has come in contact with matter, therefore then individuality started existing. Which means Krishna's individuality is also started existing after coming in contact with three modes of material nature. If that were to be true, then Krishna is also under the influence of Maya. If that were to be, then whatever Krishna speaks has got no value. Because he is speaking under the influence of Maya. And it also means, as someone rightly pointed out, that means Maya is more powerful than Krishna. Or Maya is more powerful than Brahman itself. That is why it is called as Mayavadi philosophy. Because they give more importance to the power of Maya to subjugate Brahman. That is why it's called Mayavadi philosophy. And it is a bogus philosophy. So the Vaishnava philosophy, and that has got no scriptural basis. Clearly in the Katha Upanishad and which one? Shvetashvara Upanishad and the Katha Upanishad it is mentioned. Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadati Kama. Are we at least 60% clear? Maybe not 100%, but yes. I had to read it many times myself. Yeah.
The point is well taken that the super soul and the soul are different and they can never be same. In fact, quite some time back, Srimad Ramanujacharya established that it's soul and super soul are different and God and Atma is different. Again, Madhvacharya also very clearly it's established that Paramatma and Atma they are two different things. So they are not same. But only coming to the question of that there was never a time when we never existed. I will give an example of Krishna and Balaram expansion. But in Narayana Upanishad itself, there was a time when in the Pranaya Kal, when nothing existed except Narayana. When Narayana existed, nothing else existed. There was no Shiva, no Brahma. And even Bhagavata Purana says Adi Purusha, Vishnu Narayana created
Brahma, and from Brahma Shiva was created. So that means at that point of time, if you take, Narayana was there, not Brahma or Shiva. Brahma and Shiva came later. And so how do we understand that point?
Yeah. So how do you understand that point is, if you read the third chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, then you will understand this. Please scrutinizingly read the third chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. There it is the star verse, the Paribhasha Sutra of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is what? Ete chamsha kala pumsha Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Hridayanti Yogi Yogi. If you read that purport, then you will understand this answer. Nevertheless, I'll try make an attempt here. So when it is mentioned that at one point in time only Narayana existed and Brahma and Shiva did not exist, that Brahma and Shiva refers to, actually Brahma is not even a contentious issue in that sense. Because Brahma comes from where? What role does Brahma have? Material world. There is no Brahma in the spiritual world. Right? Brahma is given to an ordinary jiva who has lived his varnashrama dharma perfectly for how many years? 100 years. 100 lifetimes. If you live varnashrama dharma properly, then anyone can become Brahma. And Prabhupada said all of us fell down from the Brahma position anyway. So Brahma anybody can become. So Brahma still talks about Jiva Tattva. It doesn't talk about Vishnu Tattva. Now the Shiva being spoken about there is the Rudra feature or the Mahesh. Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. All these people are relevant when it comes only to the material creation and its management and governance. But for the governance required in the material world, they are not required. So that is why I mentioned initially there was no material world. At reference point 0, everything was spiritual world. But at some point, but everyone existed. The Supreme Lord as the superior energy also existed. We, all of us, as the superior energy. Which energy are we? No, we are not the inferior energy. We are the superior marginal energy. Inferior energy is Prakriti, matter. We are the superior marginal energy. So Lord as the superior energy existed, we as the superior marginal energy existed. The only difference between superior energy and superior marginal energy is the superior marginal energy is susceptible to subjugation of three modes of material nature. Whereas the superior energy is the controller, supreme controller. Mayadhyakshena prakrite. That's why the Lord is saying in Bhagavad Gita elsewhere, Mayadhyakshena prakrite suyate sacharacharam. Which means, mere adhyaksha mein, in my jurisdiction, everything is moving. All moving and non-moving entities, everything is under my adhyaksha, my control. Right? And he says, my, directly is saying, in my control. He didn't say, Arjuna, never was a time that the material energy was not in your control or my control or our control. He doesn't say like that. That is Mayavadi philosophy. Right? He is saying it was under my control. Only when it comes here, Krishna is specifically referring to individuality. Everywhere else, he is referring to him as Bhagavan. Right?
Is there one way to understand that time only exists in the material world and there is no time concept in the spiritual world?
No. Time exists in the spiritual world. Okay. The only difference between time in the spiritual world and time in the material world is in the time in the material world has got a debilitating effect. Whereas the time in the spiritual world serves only to enhance things. Time in the material world serves to deteriorate things. There is a verse, Tathascha anudinam dharmam satyam shaucham shamadaya kalena balina rajan nangshati ayu balam smriti. By the influence of time, anudinam, tathascha anudinam, by every passing day, tathascha anudinam dharmam, satyam, shaucham and daya. Everything will go down. Kalena balina rajan, by the power of Kal, nangshati ayu balam smriti. Ayu means age will go down. Strength will go down, balam, and smriti, which means remembrance will go down. We can't even remember what we discussed in the previous class. What to speak of previous class? We can't even remember what we discussed yesterday. What to speak of yesterday? We can't even remember what Karunanidhi Prabhu spoke in today morning's Bhagavatam class. Right? We may not even remember half of what we spoke in the Mill Park class in the afternoon. That is our memory. Right? So, this time has got the power of destroying things. And that is also coming. Krishna is answering that question because it's so beautiful. This second chapter, it's logically it's giving. It is mentioned. Time results in what happens to the body. The body has many effects. We'll come to that. It grows, then it dwindles, then it produces some effects. It's all because of time that is happening. So time has got a deteriorating effect in this material world. But in the spiritual world, time serves to enhance the pastimes of the Lord. That is why the Lord's pastimes are called as Ashtakaliya Leela. If there was no Kal, there was no time, then there is no Ashtakali Leela. There is no eightfold pastimes of the Lord. That the Lord is getting up in the morning, he is going to herd his cows, right? When it was noon time, it is said, then Krishna opened his lunch box. So there is time, but time is facilitating in the spiritual world, the Lord's pastime. Here it is deteriorating everything. Does it make sense?
It does. Because we are talking about the Mayavadi, there is one, I was just listening to one of the lecturers before coming to Krishna Consciousness. He was saying about Lord Ram, saying that during the Vanavas of Lord Ram, he was saying that Ram was influenced by Maya. That's why he was, even though he know that the deer was not made up of gold, he was, even though it was, his simple logic is that the gold, there cannot be any deer made of gold. Because he was influenced by Maya, that's why he saw the deer and he went over there. That's what he was mentioning one of this before. I mean, because there was a topic of Mayavadi, I just want to point out this.
This is a Mayavadi lecture or Vaishnava lecture?
It was not a Vaishnava lecture. Yeah. It was a Mayavadi lecture.
Okay. So Mayavadis know only one kind of Maya, which is called as Mahamaya. Whereas Vaishnava philosophy clearly delineates two types of Maya. One is called as Mahamaya and one is called as Yoga Maya. Okay. So Mayavadis don't have access to the concept of Yoga Maya because for them Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. So they can only see Maya from the materialistic point of view. Right? So Yoga Maya acts on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yoga Maya, again I mentioned this before, Yoga Maya makes Bhagavan forget his Godhood and Mahamaya makes us forget our servanthood. Right? So this is that Maya which is talking about. So Yoga Maya actually makes Krishna think that he is the child of Yashoda. How can Krishna be child of Yashoda? Not possible, because Govindam Adi Purusham, he is the original Purusha. He says everything has come from me. So Yashoda also has come from Krishna only. Where is the question of then Krishna being the son of? Yeah. So the Lord is Akhila Rasamrita Murti. He wants to enjoy all kinds of relationships. So therefore, he covers himself under Yoga Maya to subordinate himself to his devotee so that he can enjoy different pastimes. Otherwise, otherwise there is no rasa in this universe. It's like, Kesha Prabhu was telling us in one class, some philosophies just say, the Lord is one who sits on his throne eternally. Now can you imagine if I'm just sitting here? Eternally I'm sitting. The Lord will also feel a little bit bored, isn't it? Eternally sitting on the throne. Like that. So what is the point? So they don't have access to this philosophy. Whereas through the Bhagavatam, we understand that the Lord is enjoying in the spiritual world. And every time he sees Radharani, he sees as if it is for the first time. And it is not false. It is said that it is true. He is seeing Radharani for the first time. But we cannot understand because it is inconceivable. Okay. So without pure bhakti, it is difficult to get out of our paradigms and mindsets. It is not possible. We have to accept it. Krishna cannot be understood materially. That is why Krishna himself says in Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktya mam abhijanati, yavan yash chasmi tatvatah. He says, Mam chaivyo vabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhoya kalpate. He says that unless you transcend beyond the three modes of material nature, being in the mode of ignorance, passion and mode of goodness, we cannot understand Krishna. It is not possible. Vasudeva Tattva cannot be understood under subjugation of matter. There is some other dimension which we cannot even imagine. And why not? Why not? Even in this material world, there are dimensions which we cannot imagine. It's very simple. The dogs can hear a sound which we think does not exist. It is called as audiosonic or ultrasonic. What is that? The dog can hear that, but we can't hear. Huh?
Audiology.
Audiology or whatever. The dog's ears can pick up those waves, sound waves, but we can't. So there are so many things which are very subtle and we can't. Radio waves are going all the way around in this room, but neither of us can feel it nor we can hear it. We cannot say, oh, radio wave, okay, why it is not going into my ear? FM radio 40, please go. Not possible. But it is there. So there are so many things even materially that we really can't understand. So these are things which are beyond our comprehension. So right now, the purpose of understanding this is Mayavadi philosophy is bogus. Neither the Mayavadis can understand. Mayavadis cannot understand anything anyway. Right? At the end of the day, they'll sit and watch cricket match. Yeah, Vedashri Mataji was telling once that initially she was very, I think it was Vedashri Mataji. Initially she was very impressed with the Mayavadi sannyasi. Right? So she used to go to the ashram and used to talk big things. Until one day, I think the Mayavadi sannyasi, said, I don't want to be disturbed. Question and answer session, something, I don't want to be disturbed. After giving class, he put both his legs like that on the sofa and he was watching cricket match. And then he is saying, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. Anyway, everything is false. Right? So this is the beauty of this. So people who follow these kind of philosophies, they cannot develop a purity of heart at all. They cannot get that knowledge. They have no access to Bhagavatam. Mayavadis don't have access to Bhagavatam. They cannot understand. Because they are completely besotted with their philosophy, they can't come out of that philosophy to understand that there is Akhila Rasamrita Murti, there is a Supreme Personality of Godhead, He is the enjoyer. They can't understand this. They try to understand everything from the point of view of material nature. So through that we cannot understand. We cannot understand the cause through its effect. Like that. We cannot understand the controller through the controlled. Not possible.
Actually, Srila Prabhupada mentioned up here the fact that these people who are envious, and in fact he's actually having a shot at the Mayavadis, that they're envious and that's why they cannot have access to this great literature.
Very true, very good point. So it's because of envy that people do not accept Krishna. It's a very simple example. For example, in our office, if a subordinate is, if a peer is performing very well, he's also getting promoted. He and you are going neck to neck in the promotion race in office, right? Can both of them stand one another? Usually not, right? We are always worried. Oh, he's my peer. Oh, he may go ahead of me now. And he's thinking, oh, this rascal will go ahead of me. Both of them are thinking like that, right? And neck to neck, right? And suddenly, he's just gone one bit ahead of you. How does it usually feel? That fellow made it, I didn't make it. So then we'll go to the boss and say, I don't want anything, but I'm just wanting to tell you that, he's made it, so, why can't I also make it like that? I don't want promotion, but I'm just asking, if he has made, like that. So we'll politely ask, or some people will go and just ask, how come he made it? What is wrong with me? Like that. That is why the job of a manager is nightmarish. Only Krishna can give perfect judgments in this world, right? So, but still, our peer has gone slightly ahead of us, and then we are envious. Hypothetically, let us take a case. Next day, that fellow died in a train accident in the morning, and then everyone is saying, oh, this, that. So now you are also called to speak on behalf of him. What will you say? Oh, he was an excellent man, fantastic fellow, this, that. As long as living, will you go to the boss and say, actually he's my peer, this guy is fantastic, I can tell you. Why? If you glorify the other fellow, then you are only helping your boss promote him and not you. But the moment he is not there, you kill that person, then you can say anything about that person. Right? And it's easy to glorify a person who is dead. Right? As much as it is also easy to bitch about a person who is dead already. Right? Oh, aisa tha. So the glorification also does. So the problem is that we cannot stand individuals we cannot accept, because of envy, some individual is better than us. So they want to kill the individuality of Krishna. How dare somebody who has hand, feet, legs, etc. be superior to me? Eternally, that too. So such a person doesn't exist. Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. All false. Doesn't exist. He is just a product of Maya, like that. So this is the closest explanation I can give. So they tried to denounce the personality because they cannot subordinate to any personality. So they think, no, there is something impersonal. So, to something, see, it's very easy to say, yeah, I will report to the general manager. Till you find out that Mr. Pandey is the general manager. Right? I'll report to general manager, no problem. Oh, this general manager, he was my own classmate. Oh, I cannot report to him, sorry. He and I were, we used to play together, marbles. So I can't report. So you are willing to subordinate to a higher authority till the higher authority is named and comes to you in the form of flesh and blood. Still, Krishna does not come in the material flesh and blood, but the Mayavadis think that he is coming under flesh and blood. So they are not subordinating. I cannot explain closer than this, but this is the closest I can get. So that is called as envy. Also, the Mayavadis think that because he is a product of material modes of nature, why should we call him as supreme? Because he is just like any of us. Right? We will also merge in Brahman. He is also going to merge in Brahman at the end of the day. All of us are Brahman. So there is no difference between Rama, Krishna, you, me, everything. So if he is God, then you are also God, you are also God, you are also God. So all of us are God. That is the philosophy. Obviously we can understand the loopholes there. It doesn't have any, there is no substance in this philosophy. So we'll go ahead now. Yeah.
One last thing to understand is, I didn't understand most of it, but still, you gave the example of pulling the water from Pacific Ocean in a test tube. Now, when we pull the water out, there is some individuality of this water. We can say this water is there and the ocean is still there. We have pulled out the water from the ocean. And when we again mix it into the ocean, the individuality will still be there. That particular electron of water will still be there within the whole ocean.
Atomic particles are there.
So, but it will be hard to find in that whole ocean which electron is this from a very limited knowledge here.
Correct.
So, does that, can you please explain, I'm lost after this, that how to understand the whole philosophy. I'm able to just think up to here.
Yeah, so the closest I can answer that question is that it is said that at the time of annihilation of the material world, all the souls who are still in the conditioned state, they are pulled back. When Mahavishnu breathes in, then all the souls go inside his body. And it is said that they are in a state of sushupti or deep sleep. And then when the creation again happens, then again Mahavishnu breathes out and all these souls enter the material world back. Does it make sense? So that is the closest. It doesn't mean that because the souls have gone into the body of Mahavishnu, then the souls have become Mahavishnu. So therefore their eternal existence, their individual existence is not discernible. It's not like that. Am I making sense now? Yeah. So if you actually put that water back into the Pacific Ocean, and if you really want to trace that individual atom, it is possible. But why will someone engage in such an experiment? It's so expensive. So nobody is doing that, but actually it is possible. You can trace anything, right?
In the very start of my Krishna consciousness process, I heard that.
You said it was the last
I heard that souls were created by Krishna to enjoy. Is that right or wrong? Because Krishna created us to enjoy.
There was never a time when he did not exist nor we did not exist.
But that's where I'm getting confused. When it is said that we were created to enjoy.
That is because we have, so that is to make us understand that we are different than the Lord. So Lord himself is saying, never was a time that you did not exist. But yes, all these are existent from reference points minus infinity. Right? So still the Shastras say that the ultimate absolute truth is that he is the supreme enjoyer and he is the Akhila Rasamurta Murti. And like Sachin Prabhu asked me this question, what is the purpose of God? Somebody else, he keeps asking me this question, right? So that's the closest answer we can give. The purpose of God is that he is Akhila Rasamurta Murti. His whole goal of his existence is that existential bliss. There is nothing outside of that, of him. The existential bliss of Krishna is the absolute truth.
Hope I'm getting it.
How is that's how it is. We can't say how. We can't say why. We can't say okay, I disagree with that. Then what? Then what according to us should it be? Anyway, we can't propose a better alternative.
To add to his point, like even I have some similar thing that God never created souls. Souls always existed eternally, and even Krishna clearly says that you always existed and I always existed. Never, nowhere he says that I created. What I think is he is actually a maintainer, just like a gardener will sow the which source seeds are already there. A gardener will only plant those seeds, and it's inherent quality of the seed, either to grow as a sunflower or as some other thing, or maybe a banyan tree, or as any other fruit, any other flavor, any other color, everything is the inherent quality of the seed. So the gardener did create the seed. The gardener just maintains it and gives it a proper nurturing or nourishment. That is what God does as a maintenance. What I understood somewhere else in the so. Similar to his.
Yeah, I understand, but there is only one flaw in that argument on putting a one-on-one. That you are saying that the enjoyment process starts after the seed fructifies into a flower, and that's why I did not answer it. I understood that somebody will. I thought that somebody will put this argument, but the reason I did not mention that is because that seed itself, in this case, I am giving analogy. Please don't take one-on-one. That seed itself is a source of joy for the Lord. It is not that when the seed fructifies into a flower, it gives a joy. It is not that when the soul comes in contact with the material nature and then he becomes Jaimuni and Jagannath Ramdas, then the Lord starts. So in the spiritual world, everything was together. We are all in our Siddha Deha. This is a body which has been given to us. But originally, all of us have an eternal constitutional position. In fact, Prabhupada writes that the soul never leaves the material, spiritual world. We have just become Bahir-mukhi. We have just turned our face away from Krishna. And that one moment in the spiritual world is many, many lifetimes of this material world. So actually there is nothing called as a material world. See, please understand that this board is not sufficient. Huh? Please don't take these boundaries seriously. Then you'll ask me what is outside this boundary. So this is the entire universal set of the cosmic cosmos, if you like. Okay. It is said that all this is Brahman. Spiritual world. Everything is got only one reality. There's only one reality. Brahma Satyam. That is true. Brahma Satyam is true. Okay. So all this is the spiritual world. It is mentioned in the third chapter of first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that in one corner of this spiritual sky is the material sky. But then what is the material sky? It is in the spiritual sky. So where are we outside the spiritual world anyway? Does it make sense? I am, let's say my cousin did murder. Okay, and he is in, let's say I am a resident of Pune. And my cousin did murder, and he is in Yerawada jail. Yerawada jail is in Pune? Or? Yes. Yeah, he is in Yerawada jail. Okay. Now, if I have to really tell you the truth, he'll say, where is your cousin? He lives in Pune. How will you answer? He'll say, yeah, he lives in Pune. Will you say like that? You will say he is in Yerawada jail. Correct? Oh, acha, he is not in. But Yerawada jail is in Pune. But it is still not the same as he is living in Aund. Oh, he is living in Aund, he is living in Yerawada jail. It's not like that. He is in jail and he is living in Pune. So the jail in one sense is in Pune only, but not Pune. The existence inside the jail is within the set of Pune, but still it is still not the same as saying that he lives in Pune. He lives in jail actually. Correct? In abominable conditions. Right? Or you cannot say a person who is imprisoned in Switzerland, oh wow, he's in a jail in Switzerland. He's in Switzerland, that's what is important. Nobody will argue like that. He's in Switzerland, man. Oh, nobody's in a jail in Switzerland. But the jail is in Switzerland, so he's in Switzerland. So he's in Switzerland. Does it make sense? So, that way nothing is outside the Brahman. Everything is inside the Brahman. Like the Indian embassy in Melbourne is inside Melbourne. But whatever happens inside the Indian embassy is governed by the laws of the Indian government. If I kill somebody inside, if I kill Raja Prabhu inside the embassy, then we will be tried under the Indian laws, because that is actually represents India, but it is in Melbourne, like that. So the laws of the material world and the laws of the spiritual world are different. But the ultimate absolute truth is that there is nothing called as a material world. It is just a illusion created in one corner of the Brahman to give us a feel, to give, it is just like I have turned my face, that's all, and I am in contact with the material sky. The moment I look here, it's, oh okay, I have come back, and that moment is many lifetimes. So that is a philosophy, Vaishnava philosophy. Difficult to understand, but that is the Vaishnava philosophy. Okay, so I will go ahead now. We will take more questions. Sorry, Mother, I will not take now. Let me go ahead. Maybe towards the end of the class, or please bounce it with Madhavanand Prabhu, and next class we will take it up. Today we will have to cover so many verses are there. Till 30, otherwise I cannot complete. There is only 25 minutes left. So Srila Prabhupada says, only a devotee can understand the Bhagavad Gita and the concept of spiritual individuality. Please hear carefully. Please do not discuss anything. Okay. Please do not discuss anything. If you have any point, you can bounce it with us. So Lord says, one who knows this jnana, one who has this knowledge of spiritual world, material world, body, spirit, Mahatattva, Pradhan, such a person is called as a dhira, because that person knows that at the end of the day everything is illusion. Now we have all understood it theoretically in one sense. We cannot say that we have understood it completely, but at least to some extent, some theoretically, some model we have tried to put, a material model to represent what is not material. Right? To understand the spiritual through the material senses. We are trying to do that. Right? Which is very difficult in one sense. But that's the closest we can get. But through the process of devotional service, it is the jnana which is already there inside the soul. The soul is Sachidananda Vigraha. Sachidananda. So the soul has got that knowledge already inside itself. Because it's covered by this illusion, so the soul does not have access to that knowledge. Just like we may have money in the bank, but if the bank puts a, what is that called as? Freeze. Yeah, freeze on our account, then we don't have access to that account. Money is ours only, no doubt, but I can't access it. So it's something like that. So then Lord Krishna is saying, Bhima or Drona will anyway get new bodies in the spiritual world. So don't be disturbed. And the Lord says, one who understands this knowledge, that his spirit soul and all this is illusory, such a person is not disturbed by material occurrences. So that is why dhiras tatra na muhyati. And therefore, Lord, and finally Prabhupada says that the Mayavadi's philosophy is like licking the bottle of honey from the outside. Because they are only hovering, they are only relying on dry speculation to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But what do the devotees do? The devotees engage in the process of bhakti so they can feel the presence of Krishna. Hands up if you have felt the presence of Krishna. All of us have felt the presence of Krishna. Don't you feel the presence of Krishna when you eat non-prasadam and prasadam? Can you not? It's not describable, but still there is something in that, right? Do we feel the love of our mother? Can we put it in some test tube and show everyone? This is the love of my mother. Yeah, but we can feel, right? Do we feel Prabhupada's presence? Yeah, we feel it all the time in our lives. We feel it. We feel Krishna. Something in us tells us that you are safe. Yes, anything may happen in this material world, but don't worry. Something in us, that is the presence of Krishna in our lives. Of course, some of you sitting in this room may already have some personal experiences. The Lord may have reciprocated directly or whatever, right? But nevertheless, all of us, in whatever levels we are, definitely have experienced the Lord's presence in some way or the other. And we can see His hand. The Mayavadis can't. So therefore Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, this Mayavadi philosophy which is absolutely bogus, Mayavadi Bhashya Sunile Haya Sarvanash. So completely destroyed. It will completely kill the devotional sentiment in an individual. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O Scion of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. The person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both situations is certainly eligible for liberation. So, Srila Prabhupada mentions some interesting points in the purport. He is telling Arjuna, please understand that you are not this body, you are the spirit soul, and therefore for the sake of this temporary body, do not forsake your duty as a Kshatriya. Your duty you are doing for under the Kshatriya dharma. If you read Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, there is a verse over there which talks about what is the importance of Varnashrama dharma. Ultimately, the Kshatriya, Brahmana, everything comes under what? It comes under subject matter of Varnashrama dharma, right? Duties of a particular Varna and duties of a particular Ashrama. How many Varnas are there? 4. What are the Varnas? Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. What are the Ashramas? Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas. So it is mentioned in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that Ata Pumbir Dvija Shreshta Varnashrama Vibhagashaha Swa Anushtistasya Dharmasya Samasiddhir Haritoshanam. That means the whole purpose of all this Varnashrama dharma is ultimately meant for the Samasiddhir Haritoshanam, is meant for the pleasure of Lord Narayana or Krishna. Ultimately, all whatever rules and regulations we follow, duties as prescribed in Varnashrama dharma is for the pleasure of Krishna. So Arjuna, if this is the eternal constitutional nature of the soul to give pleasure to that Akhila Rasamrita Murti, Krishna, then why should Arjuna forsake his duties in this battlefield, just on the material platform, right? And thereby renege on his eternal duty, which is part of Varnashrama dharma, to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is the kind of logic that Krishna is putting. So don't forsake your duty. Rather, under any situation, Sita Ushna Sukha Dukkada. That is the verse. Whether it is Sita, which means heat, which is cold, or whether it is Ushna, which is heat. Sita Ushna Sukha Dukkada. Whether you are happy, whether you are sad, under any circumstance, be equipoised and continue your service to the Lord. Like that. Yesterday we were discussing the pastime of Vritasur. Vritasur was a demon. He had the body of a demon, but he was a devotee. And Indra had the body like a devotee, but Indra had demonic consciousness. So there is an Asura who is a devotee, and then there is a demigod who is in Asuric consciousness. And both are fighting with one another. And Indra has cut off the arms of Vritasur. And Vritasur is now completely finished. And Vritasur is telling, and Indra cannot defeat Vritasur in that sense. He couldn't. Vritasur is telling Indra how to defeat him. He says, you please kill me fast because I am in a hurry to go back to Godhead. You please finish me fast. Let's not waste each other's time. You pick up that thing, and this is how he's explaining the methodology of how to kill him. Prabhu, take that and you have to sharpen it, and then you have to put it here, and then you have to just, and then you can kill me. Will anyone explain like this in this world? So he's explaining. Vritasura is explaining to Indra how to kill him. He says, I am in a hurry, let's not waste time. You do your duty in this world. So because Indra realizes at some point in time that he can't kill Vritasura. It's very difficult to kill him. He is huge. He is covering the 3 planetary systems. And Indra is so puny. Indra's thunderbolt, when he releases, then Vritasura is holding it with his left hand. And he is bending it and throwing it back. And then after that he swallows Indra. So where is the question of fighting? Indra having in his own ability, how can Indra fight with Vritasura? But Indra has been given a thunderbolt, which is given by Vishnu, made of one Brahmana's bones, Dadichi's bones. So then Vritasura knows this and he is reminding Indra, Indra, forget all your faltu weapons. They are not going to do anything. They are just child's toy. He is bending it and throwing it aside. And when he is throwing it back at Indra and his elephant both fall down. He is just catching it like that and throwing it back like that. Then he is telling, you have Vishnu has given that bone. Indra is thinking, how can this weapon, my bolt, my Vajra should actually destroy. I know Vishnu has given, but how can this small, this piece of bone kill that fellow? Indra is still not confident. But Vritasura, being a devotee, is very confident. He is saying, Hare, you know that Vishnu has given this, you use that. Indra cannot understand how that can kill, but actually that kills. So the demon is having more confidence in Lord. than the demigod here. So in this battle, Indra is at one point in time, because his thunderbolt is gone, he has got no hopes. But Vritrasura is telling him, whether you have hopes or not, you have to do your duty as Kshatriya to fight with me. I have to do my Kshatriya. So let's do our fight, because don't worry about the end result. End result is given by Supreme Personality of Godhead. But this fight we have to do for his pleasure, because he has ordained this fight between you and me. So same consciousness. So directly Krishna is telling here that I am ordaining this fight. Why you are coming? I have already killed him. Krishna says somewhere, I have already killed these people. You are only nimitta matra bhavya sarvesachin. You are only an instrument. Like that. So Krishna is warning Arjuna that never lose your focus on liberation. So Krishna is thereby giving the connection to Arjuna of karma, jnana and mukti. He is connecting this. He is saying you have to do your duty as a Kshatriya, which is your karma. That is your karma of Kshatriya dharma. So do your karma, but do it under the platform of jnana, that you are not the body, you are the soul. So there is karma, there is jnana, and if you do this, then you will be eligible for mukti. So he is establishing that connection. By performing our prescribed duties, we obtain knowledge, jnana, which is a prerequisite for liberation. And one gets a body according to one's work. So again, that was mentioned in the previous verse. So in our day-to-day life also, the practical application is, no matter what comes, we have to continue doing our devotional service, because we are doing it for the pleasure of Krishna. Not that, a little bit of headache was there, therefore I did not chant my rounds. Or because I did not sleep yesterday night, because of that I did not chant my rounds. So then, therefore I will not do it. It's not like that. So Sita, Ushna, Sukha, Dukha. Under any circumstance, a devotee takes a vow in initiation, come hell or high water, I will still do my 16 rounds. So that platform is called as Nishtha, or consistency. We have to reach that platform at any point in time. Some people have so much of Nishtha that even if they sleep at 2:30, they come for Mangalarati. We have one devotee, many devotees like that. One devotee I know in Chopati. He goes out and preaches to all the rich people in Malabar Hills, which is the top place in Bombay. Big industrialists, film stars, politicians, they live there. Like your Banjara Hills in Hyderabad. This is Malabar Hills, Walkeshwar in Bombay. So he goes, this devotee goes, he preaches to all the big people. He preaches to the likes of Birlas and in their houses he does programs. So he is called, now these people are not available during the daytime because they are running big companies and industries, right? So therefore they are available, their Bhakti Sastri Viksha starts at 10 o'clock in the night or 11 o'clock in the night. So this devotee goes and finishes, and by 1 o'clock he finishes, and then he comes back and then he is up for Mangalarti next day. He doesn't say, oh Prabhu, I have these services, please understand my unique position. No. He still comes for Mangalarti. So that is the kind of Nishtha under any circumstances. Shita Ushna. It's a high platform. At least personally I am not qualified even to speak about these devotees. I am not there on that platform. If I don't sleep for 7 hours, then I go crazy. So like that. So, but there are devotees who can do this day in and day out. And they are empowered by the Lord also. Okay. Text 16. Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent there is no endurance, and of the eternal soul there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. So, Lord Krishna is using two words in the verse. One is, he says, Nashato vidyate bhava and na bhavo vidyate tesha sataha. So, from this verse onwards till the 25th verse, the Lord is talking about the vision of the seers of truth, as is mentioned here. So, who are the seers of truth? What are they called as? They are called as Tattvadarshi. Jnaninas Tattvadarshinaha, the seers of the truth. So, what is their vision? The Lord is explaining. Still, he is explaining, he is talking on the platform of Jnana right now. This whole section is about Jnana, please understand. So, he is talking about the vision of the people who have this Jnana. So, Nashato vidyate bhava means of the non-existent body there is no endurance, and na bhavo vidyate teshata means of the eternal spirit soul there is no change. So the body is not eternal and the spirit soul is always eternal, so it doesn't change. So he's talking about the eternality of the soul and the temporary nature of the body here. Now, to substantiate this, we also, in our Bhakti Vriksha programs, this is one of the most preliminary knowledge that we give. Whenever, and many of you may be running Bhakti Sastri, some of you have run Bhakti Vrikshas, some of you are going to run Bhakti Vrikshas in future based upon your study of Bhagavad Gita. Then you may develop more confidence like that, and then you may go out and start your own classes. So one of the first things we tell our Bhakti Vriksha members is that you are not the body, you are the soul. We give them 3 experiments. One is we ask them to touch everywhere. Are you your ear? Are you your nose? Are you your hand? We give that experiment. If you are not your ear, you are not your nose, you are not your eyes, you are not your hair, and you are not your leg and hand, then who are you? So we give that example. So all this belongs to you, but it is not you. That's why we say this is my body. Like that. The fact when you say mine, means there is a person who possesses and there is an object which is possessed. That's why we say this is mine. Like that. Okay. So if everything is yours, then who are you? Who is speaking? Is your mouth speaking or are you speaking through your mouth? And if you are speaking through your mouth, then where are you in this particular body? Who is speaking through his mouth? Okay. So this is the first experiment we give. Second experiment we say, what is the difference between a living body and a dead body? When someone dies, people say he has passed away. So nobody says that the nose, hands, legs, everything is here. So who has passed away? Nobody is arguing like that. Passed away. He has passed away. Though everything that was his is lying there in front of them. Still they are saying he has passed away. So where is away? He is here. Not here. He's passed away. So he doesn't need Bhagavad Gita. Even a fool who hasn't read Bhagavad Gita will be able to discern very clearly that person is not. That's why we don't say, have you put Mr. Jones in the incinerator? We don't say like that. We say, have you put the body in the incinerator? We'll say, right? But when Mr. Jones was living, you don't say, is the body in hospital? You don't say like that. You'll say, what do you mean? He's still alive. But actually the body is in hospital. Isn't it? But so even a person who doesn't understand Bhagavad Gita still knows what to say when. Right? So that knowledge is inherent in the soul. That we are not this body. It's just that someone has to tell from outside. That is why we need a spiritual master to tell us what we already know. Like a consultant goes and tells the company what they already know and gets paid for it. Of course, that's a mundane example.
Prabhu, just to add to that quickly, like in India, most of the languages we say, we say I am not well, you say enek odam saride, like my body is not well. We don't say that I am not well.
You say I am not well. The body is not well. When you say the body is not well, that means the body has got a consciousness.
No, we say body is not well because because of the high temperature or something.
How do you know that the body is not well? Who is experiencing the pains of the body?
I'm saying we already know that we are not this body, we are different from the body. I mean saying that we always say that we don't say I am not well. We say my body is not well.
Who said like that? You go to the doctor and actually you tell my body is not well.
We say in the Tamil language or any language, we say that we don't say I am not well. We say my
body, that way you are saying, okay, you are translating literally. But to the doctor you will say I am not well. You will not say my body is not well. Yeah.
In any Indian language we say that my body is not well. So
Tamil, yes. But the point is the same, that we are not the body. And who is experiencing the feeling of not being well? That experiencer is the soul, not the body. The soul is using the medium of the body to say that the soul is experiencing pain through the body. Like that. And the third set of example we say is that the soul need not be experienced only by the phenomenon of death. So if you take the photograph of a child and then if you see the photograph of the same person as a teenager, the same person as a young man, and then the same person as an old man, the soul is the same, the identity is the same, the name doesn't change with the age. Right? It's not that he was called Raju, then he's called something else, Kumar or something, and then he suddenly called something else. It doesn't happen like that. This personality the person is still called as the same, right? But the body changes. So the body changes in this very lifetime. So these examples we give to our members to make it clear. Now Now, Lord is basically mentioning here that the basic avidya of a soul is identification with matter or identification of oneself as God. Either we think we are matter or we think we are God. Both are foolish concepts. Both are not correct. Therefore, from this avidya to vidya, from this ignorance to come to the jnana platform, then one needs what is called as sambandha gyan. So the entire of devotional scriptures will teach us three things. S-A-P, SAP. Sambandha Jnana, Abhideya Jnana and Prayojana Jnana. Okay, S-A-P. So here Lord Krishna is telling him about Sambandha Jnana. Later on he will tell him about Abhideya also. There are various other verses where he will say Satatam Kirtayanto Mam, etc. The process. And then Prayojana. Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Raja. I am the ultimate goal, he'll say. Man Mana Bhava Mata. So many verses which talk about that. But right now he is giving him the Sambandha Gyan. Sambandha Gyan means who are you, who am I, and what is our relationship. So this is what the Sambandha Gyan differentiates between people who are ignorant and people who are wise. That which pervades the entire body you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. The material body of the indestructible, immeasurable and eternal living entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore fight, O descendant of Bharata. So the Lord is again saying here that the soul cannot be killed. Therefore fight. And in these verses, the Lord is also talking about the size of the soul. It is mentioned that the size of the soul is 1/10,000 the tip of the hair. You can read it on your own, but essentially the Lord is talking about the size of the soul, the location of the soul, that it is within the heart. It is floating in the 5 airs. Apana, Samana, right? Prana, Apana, Vyana, Samana and Udana. It's floating in these airs. Now, when you say the soul is contaminated, it means that the soul is in contact with these foul airs, right? So the liberated state of condition means that the soul is not floating in these 5 airs. So if you remove that state is called as liberation from a metaphysical aspect, right? From a devotional aspect, liberation is something completely different. It includes the metaphysical aspect, but it is something which is more than that metaphysical phenomenon, which we will see later on. When we come to the Bhakti Yoga part, we will see that. Right now, from a Jnana point of view, a soul which is clear of this 5 airs is considered to be liberated. So, because as long as the soul is within the clutch of these 5 airs, these 5 airs inhibit the soul's potential. They inhibit the soul's original potential, like that. So, Prabhupada also gives a passing mention of Hatha Yoga. He says that the Hatha Yogis, people who don't follow Bhakti Yoga, who follow this Hatha, who try to use mechanical means to get the soul out of these 5 types of airs. Prabhupada is mentioning the Hatha Yoga process. That is what they use. But the problem is, the Hatha Yogi, by practicing this, may get out of the contamination of these 5 airs. But what is the risk? That that Hatha Yogi will not get again contaminated by these 5 airs. The risk of recontamination is always there, right? I have got something, then I have taken an antibiotic, I have got cured, but that doesn't mean that I have developed an immune system, right? So immune system is developed by bhakti. And Srila Prabhupada gives several examples here. The analogy of the medicine, which you can read up on your own. The analogy of the sun, where sun is somewhere else, but the effect is spread throughout the body. Medicine is taken locally, but it impacts throughout the body, etc., etc. So the conclusion here is that the consciousness is not due to any amount of material combination and cannot be revived by any material administration. And Srila Prabhupada is cautioning us that please remember that the atomic soul is not equal to the all-pervading Vishnu Tattva. These are some important points coming across in this section. And the conclusion is the soul cannot be killed and the body cannot be preserved. So Arjuna, please continue fighting. Neither he who thinks the living entity the slayer, nor who thinks it is slain is in knowledge. For the self slays nor is slain. For the soul there is neither birth nor death at any time, He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, everlasting, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. So again, Krishna is continuing talking about the seers of the truth. And he mentions here that though the soul is immortal, it doesn't give the people a license to slaughter animals, thinking that, the soul is immortal, so therefore after all it's the body I am killing. It doesn't mean like that. And then in this famous verse, in these verses, the Lord is also mentioning that the soul is kutastha. Kutastha means the soul is steady, whereas the body is temporary. And he gives this phenomenon. The body takes birth, it grows, sustains, it develops some byproduct, it dwindles, and then it dies. So that is the phenomenon it's explained. Okay. And further, Srila Prabhupada mentions that our soul is Anu. Anu means infinitesimal, very insignificant, very small. Whereas the Supreme Soul is Vibhu. So Anu and Vibhu. So the Vibhu soul knows the past, present as well as the future. Therefore, the Anu soul needs enlightenment by the Vibhu soul. O Partha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. So same theme is repeating. Many points are getting repeated here. The soul can never be cut into pieces by any weapon, nor burnt by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. This individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble and can be neither burnt nor dried. He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. It is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, and immutable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. If, however, you think that the soul or the symptoms of life will always be born and die forever, you still have no reason to lament, O mighty armed. So, in these verses, Prabhupada is talking about we'll go for another 5-10 minutes because it's very difficult to complete these 30 verses and we want to not make this class beyond 2 years. Okay. So these 5-10 minutes here and there, please bear with me in the initial stages. I am also trying to get my timing right. Okay. But there are simply too many verses and too many questions and I didn't want to go very fast. Today not answering questions. Still I did not answer Sarveshwari Mataji's question. I have kept it for the next class. So we'll just go for another 5-10 minutes. Is it okay?
Yes, okay.
Yeah? Okay. So Srila Prabhupada is mentioning here that he talks about the commonality with scientists. What is the commonality with scientists? Scientists also say that the body changes. So scriptures also say that the body changes. Scientists also say that the source of energy is in the heart. And scriptures also say that the source of energy is the soul, which is situated in the heart. Okay. So here in these verses, Paramatma is also defined as two birds. One bird which is watching and one bird which is doing all the activities. And Prabhupada mentions in these verses that the transference of this atomic soul to another body is made possible by one, the grace of the Lord, because He as a super soul can bless us that we take another body, and also by the desires and the past deeds, because the super soul fulfills the desire of the infinitesimal soul. So all these points are mentioned. You can read it in detail. I presume that all of you already read it, but those of you who are lagging behind in your reading, please read it. Cause of changing bodies. Why does the soul keep changing bodies? Because they don't know this Sambandha Gyan, which is being mentioned here. That's another point that is coming. Most of it you already know. We already discussed, but in different ways it's being mentioned. The remedy is to turn the face towards the Paramatma bird. This bird, when it turns its face and starts listening to the voice of Paramatma, he or she can escape repeated cycle of birth, disease, old age and death. Now, you may say that in all these verses again and again the same point is being mentioned over so many verses. You are not the body, you are not the soul, you are the soul. Same thing in different ways. So Prabhupada is mentioning here that repetition is very important in any scripture. The Sanskrit repetition is very important to place proper emphasis on that subject. So in fact, not even here, if you read even further in Bhagavad Gita, again Prabhupada will hammer the Mayavadis. Elsewhere, something is being discussed and Prabhupada will again introduce remind us that you are not the body, you are the soul. This is simply because as long as we are in the bodily concept of life, we cannot understand this transcendental knowledge which Lord Krishna is giving. So the repetition is important because Lord Krishna wanted to remove all kinds of doubts in the mind of Arjuna that he may be the body. Right? So that's why he's again and again and again hammering this point. So in verse 26 which we read, if however you think that the soul will always be born and die forever, you still have no reason to lament. So here Prabhupada is saying, even if you think that the soul dies forever, now which philosophy tells that the soul dies forever? Huh? Very good. Buddhism talks about that. Okay. So here this is called as Bauddhavad. This particular section is called as Bauddhavad. Or the commonly known term in ISKCON is Shunyavad. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pachanane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya. This is that Shunyavadi philosophy which is coming from Buddhism, that everything is ultimately void. So Krishna is saying, if anyway everything is void, that means this philosophy says that everything is just made of matter and chemicals, and after death means that there will be nothing. You will be entering into nothing. There is nothing called as you. So who will be entering into nothingness? Nobody will know that he or she has entered into nothingness because he or she is nothingness. How does that sound? So then why lament anyway that you are killing me? Even if you follow that philosophy, why are you lamenting? Killing this person. So on one hand, Buddhism says this and it is preaching ahimsa. And Krishna is subtly hinting here that if ahimsa is the philosophy, then anyway that philosophy and the tenets of Buddhism don't go well together. What is the problem? If everything is chemicals, why cry over spilt chemicals? Which anyway is going to end in nothingness. So if everything is ending in nothingness, then there is no question of papam and punyam and sinful reaction. There is no question of righteousness, non-righteousness, nothing. Who is defining to whom? One chemical is defining to another chemical. Isn't it? So Krishna is literally, in one sense, it's like there is a sarcastic mood which is coming here. He's coming to Bauddhavad and he's taunting Arjuna. Even if you think like that, please understand like that. Okay. Now, verse 27. One who has taken his birth is sure to die, and after death one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. Now Krishna is directly instructing him. He is saying one who has taken birth is sure to die, and after death one is sure to take birth again. So he is again immediately is countering that Bauddhavad, which means there is nothing called as nothingness. There is rebirth. Krishna is mentioning here. So here he is giving what is called as the Karmavad. Karmavad means the worldly view. So we are just on a continuum. Some people talk this Karmavad. After all, everything is temporary. We will die. Again, next janam mein somewhere else we will be. That is a local worldly view. So he is talking this worldly view. All created beings are unmanifest in their beginning, manifest in their interim state, and unmanifest again when annihilated. So what need is there for lamentation? Some look on the soul as amazing, some describe him as amazing, and some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. So this verse is also called as the amazing verse. Everywhere it is amazing, amazing. Actually it is called as amazing verse in Bhagavad Gita. O descendant of Bharata, he who dwells in the body can never be slain. Therefore, you need not grieve for any living being. So, this amazing verse has got some amazing points. So, we'll just note down what are those points. The different reasons are being given why the soul is called as amazing. So, there are 3 reasons. One is, people are wondering in this world, how can the same soul, which is so tiny in size as well as quantity, manifest biggest things in this world and smallest things in this world. For example, The same soul is in the body of a bacteria, and that same soul is in the body of a WWF wrestler also, which has produced him. So it's amazing how that small thing is the same thing which makes up this size of a body as well as that size of a body. Or the same soul is present in the size of a huge giraffe or a camel. So huge. Or a hippopotamus. Right? Same soul is there. The mosquito and hippopotamus. Right? It's energizing both. So that's why it's amazing. Amazing means something which cannot be really perceived. It just amazes you. Then, devoid of austerities, one cannot understand the soul. So unless we do tapasya, and the tapasya is what? Developing this jnana. Reading the scriptures, developing this jnana, following scriptural processes. That is our austerity in Kali Yuga. Unless we do those austerities, unless we practice our sadhana, which is chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we cannot really realize the presence of the soul. We cannot realize that we are the soul and not the body. We can understand from a jnana point of view, but we cannot realize it unless we perform those austerities. So that's why that soul is amazing. Amazing is something which cannot be easily perceived without an explicit endeavor. And that endeavor is bhakti. Third reason, those who accept the soul may be misguided that the super soul and atomic soul are equal in magnitude. Hence, after hearing, cannot truly understand the Atma Tattva. So all this is about Atma Tattva, the science of the soul. So some people still, they'll say, yes, so there is the super soul also, there is the individual soul also. So ultimately everything is soul. So how can be one greater than the other? So that also requires the process of bhakti to understand what is the difference between Parabrahman and we as small particles of Brahman. We need the philosophy of Achintya Bhed Abhed to be heard and understood from the disciplic succession. Otherwise it will continue remaining amazing to all of us. We will not understand the science. So once we understand the science, then the soul will stop amazing all of us. Because a person would have already developed jnana. So it will be a common understanding. Like for example, when the first time when we heard we were not the body, how amazed we were, right? Gaurang Prabhu was the one who told me, you are not this body. Who is speaking? You are speaking, or he gave me that experiment, right? So at that time I was thrilled. I went back and told the whole world, look, this is profound. I heard something, I am not the body. Or when I read Ramana Maharishi's book by Paul Brunton, that time I realized, Nan Yar, he says, who are you? And then I was amazed. Wow, this is something out of the world. I was traveling in a train, interstate train, and I was sleeping in the middle berth, and I jumped out of the middle berth. I came to my mother and said, Ramana Maharshi is saying, Nan Yar, do you know that we are not the body? Like that. So at the first time I was very amazed with this knowledge. But now day in and day out, we have heard many times, oh Prabhu, I know that we are not the body. Prabhu, don't tell me that. Something else you can tell me, like that. Or sometimes when you say the lecture was not very good, it was boring, same thing, that same drab, you are not the body, you are the soul. That was amazing at that time, but now it is no longer amazing, like that. So, in conclusion of today's class, the verses 2.11 to 2.30 talked about the jnana section. So Krishna is still giving the instruction to Arjuna to fight, but on the premise of jnana. So the gist is, factually the soul is the indestructible living entity within the body. Therefore there is no need of lamentation. The soul is indestructible, so don't lament, he is saying. So the Lord is giving 3 instructions. Accept the bona fide Bhagavad Gita, which means he is saying accept the knowledge which I am giving you. Number 2, perform great penance and sacrifice. And third, by that get the causeless mercy of devotee. In that case, the Lord himself is personally giving blessings to Arjuna. But for all of us, the instructions which Prabhupada is giving is we must accept bona fide versions of Bhagavad Gita. That is a way of developing jnana. To develop jnana, we must perform great penance and sacrifice, yes, which means following the 4 regulative principles, chanting the 16 rounds, following Ekadashi, so many things we do. Otherwise, this jnana will not become vijnana. It will still remain dry knowledge. It will not become realized knowledge. And the third is, we have to get the causeless mercy of a devotee. Some Acharya like Srila Prabhupada has to come and explain all these things to us. Only then we will understand. And we have to serve the great souls, and then this knowledge will come to us. So Lord Krishna is continuing in this whole, much of this chapter, remaining of this chapter, Lord Krishna is continuing to convince Arjuna. But there is a difference. Whereas in this section, he is using jnana or knowledge. In the ensuing sections after this, the Lord will move from the jnana to what is called as the karma section. So he'll convince Arjuna to fight, but under the tenets of karma. Karma means fruitive activity and religious duty. So that is the gist of this chapter. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.